Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mike's, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com. You can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I'm Evan Irwin. I'm going to get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hello.
Ruben Bressler.
Hey, buddy. How you doing? How you feeling?
I am on the mend. I've taken lots of meds. I'm still on some meds. You know, we're on the upswing. I'm feeling it's in the rearview mirror, and I really appreciate that.
You were on steroids, too.
I was. I mean, my lungs are like total garbage, so whenever I get sick and it goes to my chest, like, I just more or less what they got to do to get it out. But, again, feeling good. That's great. I mean, like, we didn't sort of try to have me, like, sort of suffer and over here going, like, hello, it's Magic Mike.
He looked terrible. Like, for those who doubted whether or not he was really sick, feel free to subscribe to our pre-show, because the minute the camera turned on, it was, like, flicker, and then he was, there was no way that he could have recorded that show. None.
Yeah. It was pretty rough, and I appreciate everyone's kind words. But holy cow, do we have a lot of stuff to talk about?
Yeah, let's get to it.
Let's get to it. All right, so we also get started with the Trumpet Blast. You can get one if you support us for our highest level on Patreon. So if you wanted to announce something, you can do that way. That said, we have a raid at the end of the show because we want to keep it all about that community. And it is September, which means half price subs right now.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to resub, gift sub.
Look at how hot they're coming in. Thank you.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
I've also seen an ad from Twitch that Subway itself comes into streams every once in a while and gifts like 100 subs. So fingers crossed we get the sandwich artists in here.
Thank you, Ariak Champion. I see that compliment.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, look, we do a giveaway, a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com, ! Raffle. Get you in that. If you are a sub, which is half price, you get 2 entries.
That's right.
Twice as many chances.
Double meat.
It's like double meat. Exactly right. If you get 12, please. We're trying to move on with it. This is a family show. Let's try to get on.
And if you want, the pre-show will tell you about the aisles, the mini aisles.
Nope.
The mini aisles. All right. So,
unbelievable.
Okay, seriously. What we have tonight is not one, but 2 100% free previews. Thank you, Wizards.
Thank you.
For the preview
hashtag free preview, hashtag sponsored, hashtag thank you so much, everybody.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start with the spell, and then I'll go to the creature, because I think that's interesting. Because you guys are here for brand new cards. We're here to show you brand new cards. We're going to talk about brand new cards. It's going to be awesome. First up, world premiere of Foreboding Fruit. Foreboding Fruit is a black and 2 generic mana for a common sorcery that says target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life, but it has adamant, which means if at least 3 black mana was spent to cast this spell, you create a food token, which means it's an artifact with 2 generic mana, tap and sacrifice it, you gain 3 life. So playing this in a mono black deck, you'd be able to essentially sign in blood and then have a thing left over that's going to give you back even more life.
Nope.
Then what you
feed the bones. That's it. We can all go home.
Yep, feed the bones. I like that.
Feed the bones. We're done.
Feed the bones we're done. That's a good one.
Also, if Nick Prince does not change his Twitter name to Nick Prince Foreboding Fruit, I will be very disappointed. Just saying.
Wow. That's a heck of a name right there. But Foreboding Fruit, again, as a way for what I believe would be a mono black deck. I think there is a mono black deck coming. I think there's a mono deck of all the types coming. It just depends on which one's good.
Yeah.
And they're also cycling out the Dominaria cards at the same time, so you need the triple pip cards, right? Isn't Dominaria leaving?
Yep, Dominaria is leaving, so there's no Chain Whirler or whatever.
Right. So you're getting rid of Benelish Captain just as you're getting the new Queen, for example. And so you need to fill in those spots with the new Adamant stuff.
I think it also plays well with Theros, which is coming up soon. You know, we can't do, they're probably not going to do Devotion again. I'd be very surprised. So this is still another mechanic that encourages you to play more than one color without, focusing as much on the pips or about, the things that are clearly obvious. I think that's right. Well, it's a kicker with Devotion.
I would actually say that based on what they've been doing, like they are kind of hitting us over the head with Devotion, and they're like, Devotion, everything has pips. There's a cycle of 3 pip things all over this set.
Not just Devotion, though, maybe. So, the Devotion thing could happen, but this is another way to still sort of show your devotion without actually saying Devotion on it.
Fair enough. All right, so that is our first one, Feed the Bones, as it were.
I like it.
Our next one here is Lochthwain Paladin. This is another Adamant card for a black and 3 generic mana. It is a 3/2 human knight with menace, and it has Adamant. If at least 3 black mana was spent to cast this spell, it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, soon to be a limited all-star. A 4 mana, 4/3 menace is definitely a threat and a scary one at that, and this one will fit right into any limited deck, any knight deck would like this.
Beautiful art.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, they're really pushing a lot of these commons in this set. I mean, this is well above rate for a black common, getting a 4/3 for 3. It's also got the relevant creature type of knight, and getting a 4/3 with menace in limited is going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I also love the name Lochthwain. I think that's really cool. Sounds like it should be harder to say than it is, which for the Southerners, we appreciate that. hey y'all.
Yeah, Lochthwain was the one, if you recall, we got these preview cards and we were recording our pre-show and we were sort of trying to figure out pronunciation guides for some of the cards. And this was the one that I didn't know if it had a weird pronunciation. Because that is CTHW are not a lot of, you don't see those letters all in a row together. But it's easier than it looks.
We also couldn't say anything either because we knew what food was before everybody else. I remember when that first food card got spoiled, it didn't say what food was. And so as the community was sort of pulling out their hair trying to piece it together, we knew and we just had to sit on it for a while.
I hate it when food gets spoiled, don't you?
Absolutely.
Wow. I mean, we were just like, they're like, it adds a counter or it moves a thing. And we're just like, it's weird. I wonder what food does. Well, they not only gave us free previews, thank you very much, Wizards, for those. Wizards also threw some preview cards around to people I was not expecting, including the actor who plays Bran, or played Bran, in Game of Thrones, to show the buy-a-box promo of Kenrith the Returned King.
There you go.
Which I thought was super duper sweet. The card, by the way, is a 5-color EDH General All-Star, which I think is super sweet. The card in Limited is going to be, you're never going to see it Limited because it's a buy-a-box promo, never mind.
Right, there you go.
But Kenrith in and of itself is a terrific card. And again, do note, right now, if you're going to go pre-order your booster box, you get a collector's pack. You know that thing they're pre-selling for $35 right now around the web?
Really?
Yeah. Like $35 to $40 is how much that thing is going to be. So if you get a $100 pre-order, you're going to get not only that promo, you're going to get a collector's pack on top of it. So you're going to pay what, $60-65 for a box essentially at that point?
Nice.
Like, the value is nuts. So get on that.
We can't talk about Kenrith without talking about that amazing art.
The family portrait?
Coast, I believe. If you get a chance, go look at the family portrait of the Kenrith family, of Rowan and Will and the Queen and the daughter and the prince, and seeing that they're a blended family and seeing how much that means to people. Like, it was just gorgeous, and I just rave reviews over that art.
And speaking of art, we would be loath to forget that our artists for our preview cards, Drew Baker did the Foreboding Fruit with that wonderful pear in the middle of it, and also Zach Stella doing Lochthwain Paladin, just tossing those out there.
So take a look here at the portrait of the Kenriths. It's just one of the best illustrations.
It really is.
Period. Like, that I've seen of Magic. Between the kids are incredible, the costumes, the lighting, just the skill in and of itself.
I heard that he wanted to add a cat and there was just no time.
Sure.
Well, that makes me a little sad. That's okay.
He also couldn't get the cat to sit still long enough to paint the portrait.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So that said, again, we also have the early access streamer event. I was supposed to have a graphic, but I didn't get to it in time. I'm sorry. On my birthday, September 24th, I get to celebrate my birthday as being part of the streamer event. We are going to continue the 3-legged pass the baton. Ruben gives it to me, who gives it to Aaron, then we get to see Eldraine all day long.
So I will be taking the night shift. You two tend to play more of the fair decks. And so, you can come on the third shift, watch me do the broken things that you can't play in the light of day. We got to save it for the nighttime because, I like the scandalous decks. So it'll be fun. And it's always fun to watch me figure out Arena because I never know what's happening. So you can watch me get mad at it. It's great.
Well, according to Wizards, which we'll talk about a little bit later, your Magic Online is going to get a lot more like Arena than the other way around.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that as well.
Aaron After Dark, thank you.
Yes. So we'll be beginning that sometime on Tuesday morning. I can't remember exactly what time it is for you, Ruben.
And send us your lists. We are not really brewers in particular. So if you have things that you would love us to play, we are more than happy to give you credit, and we will play your deck.
I'll brew my decks though.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. I want suggestions, and Lord knows I'd give you credit. But I'm all about some of that brews.
I don't got time for that. I'm gonna net deck like a filthy net decker.
You're a busy man these days. You got stuff to do.
Yeah, I've got rent to not pay. I've got bills to avoid.
Terrific.
You have podcasts to record from your car.
Right.
There you go. So we have all chosen 2 cards that we want to talk about this evening. I'll go ahead and go first. The first card I want to talk about was just spoiled a few hours ago, and it was called Fabled Passage. Fabled Passage is a rare land that says tap, sacrifice it, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Then, this is the magical phrase, if you control 4 or more lands, untap that land. This is the greatest Evolving Wilds of all time.
It reminds me kind of Tectonic Edge, where it was like you could destroy a land if they had 4 lands or you had 4 lands. Like that's kind of what it reminds me of.
And that card was busted, by the way, because you could activate 2 at once.
Yeah, I like this.
I like it a lot. I think she'll think this is going to be an unbelievably huge staple in Standard. I think it's going to be a staple in any sort of casual format.
Commander players are going to eat it up.
I mean, this card's just going to be, I run an Evolving Wilds just in decks, especially with Field of the Dead being a card. Evolving Wild just has a place in those decks. This being one that can fix your mana as a fetch land would a lot of the time, this is a crazy powerful card.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Shout out to MTG Gracieli, who says it's the first time live listening to the show. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And this is just where you have a Prismatic Vista just being made in Modern Horizons, and you're like,
buy them now. Buy them now.
I guess I'll just take this thing without life loss, and if it's anywhere at turn 4 or after, I look like a genius. This card is nuts. This is a clear, really good money rare put at the end of spoiler season to get us rehyped because goodness gracious.
Because they also didn't put a rare multicolored land cycle, a dual land cycle in this set. The rare land cycle is something else, which we'll talk about a couple of them maybe. But there's no shock lands, there's no check lands, there's no scry lands in this particular set. And so you needed a little bit of something to get the people, the mana fixing people excited. And that is a heck of a card.
That is
because there had been a lot of talk about how bad the mana is looking in this new standard, and so this was a nice way to kind of quell that criticism.
Right.
Yeah, I think this card is absolutely incredible. The other one I definitely want to talk about was Wishclaw Talisman. I believe Emma Handy wrote a whole article about how silly this card is. It's a black and a generic mana for a rare artifact that enters the battlefield with 3 wish counters on it. And this is like the monkey's paw. It says 1 generic mana, tap, remove a wish counter, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. An opponent gains control of Wishclaw Talisman. Activate this ability only during your turn. Now, this is a classic. It's technically symmetrical, except it's never symmetrical.
Unless you can kill them first. I mean, in the older formats, you can bounce this with paradoxical outcome. One of the things they love to do in Vintage is you activate your Sensei's Divining Top, and then with that on the stack, you bounce everything back. And so there are a lot of ways to manipulate this card to where what the opponent's doing just doesn't matter. And so this card is terrifying.
I mean,
not to mention that you can just play Teferi and bounce it again.
You can play Teferi and bounce it. Ashiok won't let them search. Karn won't let them activate. Just bounce it back to your hand with something else, like the new Mythic Fairy thing that showed up today. Just sort of almost any way to take the symmetrical out of the symmetrical, which Magic players do constantly. And the idea that this is like a tutor that's you can abuse in different ways. I mean,
it's funny because I seem to recall Maro making a post about we're going to give artifacts colors so that way they're not as broken, and it's like.
Gosh, don't make me play this colorless Planeswalker.
We can make them broken, but fewer decks can play them.
Well, it's not going to be hard to come up with 1 black mana. Yeah.
So the potential for abuse is so large. And the idea that you can run almost a toolbox worth of options to go find and a whole variety of ways to shut it down. You can go find the way to shut it down if you need to, just so you can go abuse it more later. Who knows what you want to do? This thing is ridiculous. I love it. Being able to play multiples seems silly. I'm excited about this card in all forms. That said, let's move on here to Ruben's cards. You got a little Keldorn Outpost in you, buddy?
Yeah, man. Y'all kids don't know, do you, about the Keldorn Outpost? So one of the earliest win conditions was a card called Keldorn Outpost, which was a white land that made 1/1s, but it also required you to sacrifice a plains before you could do anything. Well, Castle Ardenvale doesn't require any of that. All Castle Ardenvale asks you to do is to put it in your deck. Castle Ardenvale is one of the new rare land cycles, or the new rare land cycle that we were touching on. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a plains, which is not very hard to do. It taps for a white mana, and for 4 mana, 2 colorless white, it makes a 1/1 white human creature token. This is not legendary. The rare lands are not legendary, to the surprise of some. This is just, I guess a more recent comparison, of course, is Vitu-Ghazi the City Tree, which also was quite a powerhouse in Standard. I think that this one, I don't think people are sleeping on it, but it's an extremely powerful effect.
Because, you see, old man Magic, after I'm done yelling at clouds, back in my day, hey y'all, you couldn't just mulligan a hand because you wanted to mulligan a hand.
Okay, sure, yeah.
You had to have 0 lands or all lands and prove it to your opponent by showing your hand, which was a thing. And so if you had Keldorn Outpost and nothing else, you had to keep it because them's the rules, y'all. So thankfully we don't live in that world anymore. The opportunity cost on these lands is so stupidly low. I mean,
it really is.
Unbelievably, Wizards continues to get closer and closer to essentially a line in the sand, okay? Wizards has said many, many times, whenever you say something like, oh my gosh, Magic cards are so powerful these days, and they go, well, there's one rule they don't break. They never make a card better than a basic land. This would be a Mox, this would be something better than a Mox, and this would be better than a Plains, but it's not. But it is just, we're getting closer and closer.
It's real close, yeah.
It's the opportunity cost of, gosh, I guess I got to play these Plains cards, and it's not even a basic Plains. It's just Plains, which means it works with all your shock lands, which is fantastic and exciting, but also kind of power creeps us along up the chain a little bit more and makes me a little nervous. But
sure,
that's why Magic cards can be exciting. That's it. What else you got for us?
Super exciting card. The other one I'm really excited about is, whenever you get card draw, especially in the new way that Red is getting card draw, which is to exile the top cards of your library, it's very exciting. And also, this next card, Escape to the Wilds, has the same phrasing that a Powerhouse of Standard has in a slightly different way. So Escape to the Wilds is 3 colorless red-green for a sorcery. It's also a rare. Exile the top 5 cards of your library. You may play cards exiled this way until the end of your next turn. You may play an additional land this turn. So 5 mana this is kind of a Tidings, which is really interesting, but it also lets you play them until the end of your next turn, which is the same phrasing as Light Up the Stage. Obviously, very different card than Light Up the Stage, but card advantage in red and green is hard to come by. This is 5 cards. This is a huge percentage of your library when you're casting it. It is this is just a very exciting card and a very exciting development in red-green card advantage.
And this is it sort of took, for me, it took the standard of like, I'm waking up in the morning and I'm looking on Twitter or Mythic Spoiler or whatever, and I'm like, oh wow, this card seems really great. It's kind of like Light Up the Stage. It's not, but they exile the cards and you can play them until your next turn. And then of course the internet's just like from the top rope, Evan, you idiot, kaboom, you're not like Light Up the Stage. Oh, but I'm like, guys, look, imagine you play this thing and then you reveal 2 lands and a 2-drop amongst there. You can play both lands if you haven't played a land this turn. Sure. And then play that.
Obviously, the comparison from Light Up the Stage to this
was bad.
Is it's bad, but it's like It's like the comparison of if there was a 1 mana draw 2 cards and Tidings, right? Like clearly Light Up the Stage is the more powerful card. That doesn't mean that this isn't powerful.
Right.
So,
it doesn't mean that a red-green deck like that you want exactly this. I can't tell you how many red-green ramp decks. You just think back to Valakut, right?
Yeah.
You could whiff and just draw nothing and just die. Whereas this is like, oh, perfect. And if you flip into another one, fantastic, because all you got is mana and time. So give us more cards.
Yeah, this drawing into other Escape to the Wilds is going to be sort of like, I mean, it's going to be red and green's version of Sphinx's Revelations, where it's like you play this and then you find another one, and then the next turn you play the other one and then keep going and just dig through your entire library.
I remember I played red-green ramp during Battle for Zendikar Standard, and I would have loved to have had a card like this, because I spent a lot of time spinning my wheels, where like I had that early kind of ramp game, and then you had your top end game, and sometimes you didn't have anything to do in the middle, and this is a great segue between the two.
There's a couple of decks in the history of Magic that have been like that. Red-green Snow comes to mind from Time Spiral, Cold Snap, when you would just draw into your Into the Norths for like 3 turns in a row and not draw any of your siege gangs. Wow.
Thank you for the gifts, MTG Effect.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you much. So this card in and of itself, again, this is where you want to be, right? You have your 6 mana plus bombs you want to play. You have your ramp spells that you play early. It fits right in there perfectly. I love this card. Aaron, you got a little excited. Tell us what happened.
Stop the presses. There's a Magic card that Aaron Campbell is interested in that was printed recently.
Just one. Just one. There's 2. Okay, 2 for this occasion. So the first one I want to talk about is Once Upon a Time, which is groundbreaking. It's 1 and a green. It's an instant. If this spell is the first spell you cast this game, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. Instant speed. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card. Doesn't say basic. Any land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Belcher in Legacy would love this card. They are currently testing it in Vintage right now. The survival decks are excited about it. Dredge is excited about it. We've been using Force of Vigor lately, so we need green cards to pitch to that. And so being able to put this in your deck, I mean, this has the potential to only the most busted decks want to play with this card, and I love it. And I hope it finds a home.
Oh. Once Upon a Time and Force of Vigor could just be the only green cards in a deck.
That's
possible. Hilarious.
Yeah.
I would not say only unfair decks want this. I think all sorts of decks want this.
Really?
For sure.
Because of and Frank Karsten, God bless him, he did the math. And
somebody call Frank Karsten.
That's right. And so what happens is if you put 4 Once Upon a Times in your deck, you can take out 2 lands and be safe. And the percentages are so high that it can replace 2 lands all by themselves. Because remember, it's the first spell you play of the game. You can wait multiple turns before you actually play your Once Upon a Time. So if you only have 1 land, you can say go, and you can take another draw, and then play another land. Just wait a little bit until you absolutely have to fire that off to get maximum value for it. Like, this card is going to change Magic almost, maybe fundamentally, who knows? But it sounds like it is a gigantic, crazy spell that you're going to hear about a lot. Like, a lot of your games are going to start with Once Upon a Time.
$15 in the pre-orders? Yeah.
And it was 10, and now it's 15. It's not really slowing down when it's going to be a multi-format all-star.
Yeah.
But there's another card, you see.
Oh my God. So it takes a lot, for me to care about a card. Most of the time I'm looking at the spoilers, they come across Twitter and it's fine. You like it. You might hit the like button, you might be, whatever. And this card though, I got the broken giggles. The minute I saw this card, I literally said out loud, oh my God, because it is everything I want in life. The Cauldron of Eternity. So I started off at the top. I saw the 10 colorless and 2 black, and I was like, what? I was like, what could possibly cost 10 mana? Then you go down and you see Legendary Artifact, and then it says this spell costs 2 colorless less to cast. for each creature card in your graveyard.
Uh-oh.
And then it's so you're never going to pay that. And then it says, whenever a creature you control dies, put it on the bottom of your library, which is fine. You can pay 2 and a black and tap it and pay 2 life and return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability anytime you can cast a sorcery. It's like a Whip of Erebos on like steroids. Like, it is hilarious. Surveil is still very much in the format. Doom Whisperer, oh my god, like that is just euphoria right there. And so I cannot wait to play with this card. Blood for Bones is still in the format, I believe that's what it's called. You have the Regisaur that you need to feed things to. It does not take a lot of work to fill up your graveyard, even in Standard. And so if you tune in to watch the Arena preview event, I'm probably going to be playing this card. So I cannot wait to just break this in half. Just
please, someone build her a Cauldron of Eternity deck. We need it stat.
That sounds really good, actually.
Just like a Kit Kat bar. Just
Doom Whisperer in particular sounds really attractive with this card. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
All right. So again, thanks for the free previews, Wizards. We have to keep moving. There's so much we got to do. So much we got to cover in Gather the Townsfolk. First thing, we have a new Hall of Fame member. The results are a little odd, I guess, in many ways. But, I mean, the person we expected got there.
Of course. 94%, more than 94% of those voting voted in Mr. Reed Duke.
Yes.
Obvious choice, 100% first ballot Hall of Famer. The stats speak for themselves, and there's not a scratch on him.
No.
Going in pristine and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And oh, by the way, he missed the announcement because he was recording a Jund video, which is hashtag on brand.
The most wholesome thing in the world.
Yeah. What a sweet boy. What a nice.
I wouldn't have been
especially. Yeah.
He'd have been like, well, I can't, I missed the announcement because I'm helping old ladies across the street. I'm fixing, flat tires. This is what he does.
If there was ever a Pro Tour that the fairy tale prince should go into the Hall of Fame, it's this one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they gave him Charming Prince. I mean...
Yeah.
It's true, which is a really sweet card, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Hall of Fame results, however, though, with 94.28%, Reed Duke is in there. Brad Nelson and Chris Bakula tied at 36.03% as the runner-ups.
So I voted for Pakula this year. 36 is like I think that's a reasonable number for Chris Pakula. Mm-hmm. Floating right around the getting in percentage. Obviously, I voted for him this time, so I was hoping for an increase over last year.
Well, you actually need 60% of the vote to get in.
Oh, you need 60 this time?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
They raised the threshold a few years ago. And again, that was one of those, we do the push for Pakula.
Right.
I mean, that football we've been trying to kick, much like Charlie Brown for many, many years.
I think that given that it's 60 instead of 40, I think that one person going into the Hall of Fame and that one person being Reed Duke this year is correct. The numbers associated with this Hall of Fame, boy, howdy, voters. I don't know if any of you are watching this program, but we need to have a chat because, some of these numbers are bizarre.
Yeah, I mean... The numbers were out there. Adrian Sullivan made this amazing spreadsheet that let you look up people's results and even broke it down into tiers of who were the high tier candidates, who were the mid tier, and who were the low tier, quite frankly. And so you had 3 or 4 pros with the 4 Pro Tour top 8s, which to me was basically shoe-in material. As long as you had the GP record to support that, I pretty much got you in there. I voted for Marin LeBaire, 4 Pro Tour top 8s, Aikita, 4 Pro Tour top 8s. To be quite honest, a lot of the records for people that they picked were fine. I mean, they weren't bad, but you did ignore several prominent names that happen to not come from North America that you don't see every day and that you don't know who they are. And you did pick a lot of people that have are good guys and have done okay, but it did feel like there was a little bit of bias here. It did feel like there were people who didn't necessarily do their homework, or they gave certain things weight other than just the raw numbers, where there were certain candidates where if you just looked at numbers, they should have been shoe-ins. Numbers and you had no baggage, you should have been a shoe-on. And it was they weren't even here, where it was what were you looking at? What did you value? I don't understand.
Fair enough. Well, one of the other things that was announced, because did you see the command zone at GP Vegas Well, we're going to have events that are only geared for Commander players.
Love it.
The Commandfest is coming to Seattle from November 1st through 3rd, which is pretty awesome in and of itself.
Fabulous.
And there are a bunch of ways that you can sign up. Essentially, it's a full weekend long dedicated to the best way to play Magic, according to some.
One in Chicago.
Absolutely. Well, there's going to be one in Chicago and one in DC, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep.
So that is going to be super sweet, and this is, Channel Fireball and Wizards really just leaning in to what this is, and
Good.
And showing that, and I think if anything else, I would argue that CFB was fairly shocked at seeing how many people signed up for the command zone, how they had to go back and open more spaces up. It was a giant section of the Grand Prix, which I thought was great.
I think that it's tough for them, like we mentioned a couple times on this program, it's tough for them to gauge, it's tough for them to monetize these commander people, right? But the popularity is there. So once you figure out where to pour the fuel, the engine runs.
Yeah.
So now that they've figured out what to do, this thing's just going to take off. And I couldn't be happier that they've figured out the equation for it.
Yeah, just to answer Pharmacist Judge's question, I will not be at Eternal Weekend this year. I couldn't get the time off for it because the Vintage event is on Friday, which means I would have to get Friday off. And so if it was on Saturday, I would definitely make the trek, but Mama's out of vacation time this year, so maybe next year.
This is also a good point in the show to say that we are not doing a complete set review.
No, we're good
of Eldraine this time around because of busy scheduling. Apologies. We'll have to hold those pie bets off for another time.
Fair enough. Also note that Sheldon Minery just today announced at the end of September he's heading to Seattle for a few months to work with Wizards on upcoming projects.
Smart.
Which is unfortunately due to his he has some cancer issues. He's got to go back and forth for immunotherapy treatments, which obviously we wish him the best.
Cancer.
Yeah,
he's got recurrent stuff going on.
And so obviously we wish him the best. But the idea that Sheldon Minery is going to Wizards to do something with them specifically, that in and of itself is super exciting.
And the best.
And again, Wizards is just leaning in further and further into Commander. From the rumblings that I've heard, Wizards has now essentially respected Commander as a new player acquisition tool. And yeah, it's kind of big and sometimes a lot of stuff going on, but it sure is a heck of a lot of fun. And that's kind of what we're here to do.
There you go.
So I hope that works out great. Moving on here. The internet's Allie Warfield, who did a terrific job at making the Mythic Championship and getting top 4 at the Grand Prix, which was insane. And Aaron, there was another female winner, is that correct?
Yeah, Esther Trujillo, along with her team, won at GP Ghent this past weekend. She's now the second woman to ever win a GP behind Jessica Steffen. And it's been a great couple of weeks for girls on trying to get on the Pro Tour and doing well at GPs. And, Allie's been an incredibly hard worker, and it's been great watching Allie's journey to the top. I remember Allie, we both live in Milwaukee. And so, I've seen Allie at LGSs before. She was just a college kid who played, Affinity every now and again. And she's making content and she's streaming and she's sponsored and she's on a team and people are looking up to her. And, this is what we wanted. We wanted more girls to be able to play and do well. And, her and Esther and Jessica are examples of that. And so it's great to sort of see the payoff of that. It's a little depressing, though, that there was no coverage for both Allie's time and Esther's as well, which is, the whole point of representation is you want people to see it. And so, we had 2 weekends where women did very well. And the social media clamor was there, but those are the things we really would have liked to have seen on camera or in the articles.
Right? I don't know what the answer is for me personally. And I don't know what it is for anybody else, obviously, but for me personally, I don't know what it would take for me to care about this MPL split thing. I don't. Yeah. I care in that, oh man, Ben Stark or whoever did great. I love Ben Stark. You're awesome. High five. But me tuning in, caring, knowing where the split is.
Either if you look at the likes or the retweets, there's just none. I hate to say it because I have friends that are playing on it, but people just don't seem to care.
And when you have coverage of an event like a Grand Prix or another tournament series, the idea that you can kind of sort of put yourself in their shoes,
exactly,
you can follow people along, there's storylines that you can follow, and I know that they're trying with the MPL thing. Trust me, I get it. I just don't really think it's working in terms of engagement. I just don't care, and I want to care. I really want to care.
I do too.
I
can't either.
I'm just trying to be honest in case, if someone from Wizards hears this, I want to care about this thing. I just don't. So, I mean, I have no good answers there.
Before we move on from this topic, this is the meme of, but we need you to follow the account, which is Arctic Nebo. You should be following her. She writes a bunch of content. She has a Patreon of her own that you
funny too. Like she understands, she understands branding and memes like in a way that a lot of people don't. And she's just a good example of what to do. And her and Dylan are just couple goals. And I mean, it's just great.
It's great. And she also wrote a great article about how making that top 4 and what that meant to her and bouncing back from SCG and all this other stuff. It was terrific. All right. So there was a pretty gigantic post that I can't even cover, I think, half of it, about Magic Online, Throne of Eldraine coming, what it means to you. A lot of it was, here's a bunch of events that they're going to have for Eldraine. Okay, fine. One of the big things is that you're going to be able to drag to cast, which is also known as...
Wait. Specify for me. What are you talking about?
You think I'm casting spells?
Drag to cast on Magic Online?
Yes.
Huh.
Click, move it, let it go. It casts the spell, aka what you've done in Arena from day one.
Huh.
What felt natural, what just worked. Now, maybe they shared the code for tapping lands between the Arena team and the online team. I don't know. Maybe they had a powwow and they figured it out. I don't really care. It's actually fan-freaking-tastic, and they're going to have rules to make sure they don't tap the wrong mana. They're going to have rules to make sure they do Adamant if you want to Adamant a spell, and make sure you pay that 3 mana or whatever to it. And there's a little bit here about Adamant and how that's going to work. A little silliness in terms of a card like Sundering Stroke that has a bunch of targets, which is interesting in and of itself. And one of the things they kind of put near the bottom here, for God's sake, it's taken since 2002, I think, was when the program showed up, maybe 2001, till today. Year of our Lord 2019, they are removing the paywall for Magic Online accounts.
Wow. Oh, wow. Hilarious.
Until the release of this Eldraine update on September 25th, day after my birthday, you guys can now get a Magic Online account and not have to pay $10.
Amazing.
It took way too long, but you know what? We're here, so...
Hey, good. Nick Prince changed his name to Nick Prince Foreboding Fruit.
Yes.
We did it. The paywall thing is kind of hilarious. I'll be honest with you, I forgot that was a thing. I also did know that there are a scant few people in the world whom play Magic Online, but Magic Online does not have their credit card information because they signed up as soon as the beta came out or something like that, and so they got a free draft and then just grinded it up from there.
Wow.
There are people that exist, and I know one of their identities. I don't know if we want to espouse who they are live on the internet, but you've heard of them. But yeah, and now more people can be added to that list, which is kind of hilarious.
So it appears, and again, this is further reading, and this is a gigantic article. I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat. Link's going to be in the show notes if you're interested. There's going to be basic accounts because you basic, and basic accounts versus full accounts, where basic accounts can't use features like chatting and whatnot. Which is interesting. Direct challenges, or clan invitations, things like that. Basic accounts can redeem promo codes or whatever. So you want the account upgrade kit, which costs $10, as it turns out. So that is a thing. You can now get a basic account, it appears. So that's a thing of stuff. So, all right, sure. I mean, Magic Online is rolling forward.
Cool.
There was a lot of skepticism years ago that it was just going to grind to a halt because Arena was arenaing.
Right.
But that's not looking to be the case.
Does not seem to be the case. It seems like it's going to continue to have its own niche that Arena is just not going to ruin.
We'll certainly talk about things Magic Online does that Arena doesn't later in the show.
Sure. After Theros Beyond Death, it was announced that Planeswalker decks will only be produced for core sets only. So if you like those Planeswalker decks, they are kind of going away, but then they're kind of staying when it comes to core sets. They say, fear not, they have an awesome yet-to-be-revealed product that's going to replace them in the product lineup, and we'll see. So Planeswalker decks in and of themselves, like, it was one of the, and remains one of the only products that is kind of designed intentionally to be bad. Like, none of the cards are meant to be good in any way. They're none are meant to see standard play in any way. They're meant to have an introductory experience. And honestly, it's weird. In many ways, it's giving you such a low power first experience that when you start to play real Magic, quote unquote, that it's like, wow, these cards are really good. It's like, yeah, because they made you play with like 5-mana 3/3s and stuff for all of your decks. And it was kind of awkward. So I'll take it, which is fine. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
We have some new Judge promos coming. I'm going to bring up on here on the screen here from Twitter, thanks to ERAF. First, we have the Chalice of the Void. This is the Seb McKinnon artwork that was originally only on Magic Online, as I understand it. It is amazing. It's not. I'm not going to show it here in the show, but if you do go find Seb McKinnon's Twitter, someone actually made a real-world Chalice of the Void that looks just like that.
Wow.
And they put a little LED light in it so it lights up. Like, it's super cool.
Nice.
Go check that out if you got a minute. Also, the Reflecting Pool that I believe only had Magic Online artwork, which is now out in the world for everybody. So Peter Moorbacher's artwork. I also know that Peter Moorbacher hasn't made Magic art in a very long time.
Wasn't he the one that threw that he kind of burned it all down when like things didn't go well or he didn't get paid enough? And yeah.
He lit that bridge and warmed his hands by the fire. But they still have this awesome Reflecting Pool that he drew, and it's fantastic. So, whichever. Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow, which has Commander Ninjutsu, which is amazing, and I love it. And lastly here, we have a brand new artwork, Monastery Mentor.
The vintage folks are going to eat that up because it's restricted. You only need one, and if your one is beautiful, vintage is the place to like get your foils, get your altars.
I love this art.
Yeah.
It is absolutely terrific. And I look forward to seeing these things on the battlefield. Really, really cool. All right, so let's see here. Last thing before we get to some more emotional stuff, there is I'm going to link it here to the chat. Don't really have time to show you the whole video for the championship trophy for the Brazil National Tour, which I think is really cool. It's not like skittily, super crazy colorful.
It looks kind of steampunk.
But in many ways, it's handcrafted. That's what I like about it. Like some of the ones that I didn't like and I criticized before was because they just kind of felt like almost like a jelly mold or something. No, man, there was love and time and attention that was put into this trophy, and I think that's what matters.
This feels a lot like the I think it's the Poker Players Championship 50K trophy at the World Series. That looks like it's iron wrought and like made with people's hands. This feels like a trophy that the people would want because the people would earn it. You know what I mean? As opposed to the types of trophies that Evan is not the biggest fan of, which feel like that they were stamped out of
the ones that look like Ambrosia from Xena and Hercules.
They look like a little bit like yeah, exactly. They look like grandma's cookie drawer.
Okay. All right, so we're going to get a little bit serious here. Commander versus star Stephen Green unfortunately lost his father to cancer early Sunday morning. Originally only given 6 months to live, he survived almost 5 years, which in and of itself is terrific. But we do send our condolences to Stephen Green and his family. We're so sorry to hear that. I got to work
the Magic Mike's account follows 4 people. It is the 3 of us and at Redneck Wins.
Because that's
actually it follows 3 people now. It looks like. Why did we stop following Redneck Wins?
Oh, I think because you made fun of me for it or something back then.
Oh no, we got to refollow Red. I'm fixing that right now.
You do it,
buddy.
We
followed Redneck Wins for so long.
Originally, Redneck Wins was the only account that Magic Mike's followed because
for 2.5 years. Was the only account that it followed. Yeah, so we got back in on it.
I got to work with Stephen for many years at SCG. He is a good guy. He is great, and I hope he, his family gets through that okay. Jeff Zandi was a gigantic force in Texas Magic, and the Wave 18 Vanguard here includes there's going to be a new playmat. It appears with Jeff's likeness on it. Which is interesting. And the Hunter Burton Memorial Open was a big thing that Jeff liked to be involved in. So they can, let's see here, they can use it for promotional items like playmats, which is interesting. They can use it for promotional items like tokens.
Right, so I think it's a token that you can make into a playmat if you want to.
Cool.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so, and the artwork, I believe this is from...
this is Ken Meyer Jr.
Ken Meyer Jr. did it. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave a link here so you guys can read up on it.
Yeah, I did not know Jeff personally. I think we had run into each other tangentially in the community. He wrote for TCG Player for a little while, so we just sort of, brushed against each other on Twitter. But where I really came to know about Jeff was when I went to the Hunter Burton Open back in March, and Jeff was an instrumental part of that event. And he had just passed away shortly before the event, and there was just nothing at that event that didn't have his fingerprints on it. And I remember right before we started the first day, there was the host of the event, and he gave a very lovely speech. And you don't see a room full of guys, especially Magic guys, in tears before an event, but there was not a dry eye in the house before we got started, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, and apparently what had happened at one point was there was an incredible message that was left, sort of like as judge feedback for him a few days before he died, about how he was such an incredible mentor and how he was helping out the other judges and what it means to exceed your goals and stuff, and being a mentorship and or having mentorship and what that means. Absolutely incredible. And again, links in there, links in the show notes. Go check that out. Jeff was a gigantic force, and we do miss him. All right. We'll move on here to Desperate Ravings as the clock continues to tick, and we try to cover 2 weeks of news. Okay, so for the past now it's been about half a week or so, but for about a 2-week period, there was quite the uproar about...
You were so bothered by this.
I was pretty pissed off. Now look, I try not to, ask Wizards to change things because everyone's asking them to change things all the time. I try to pick my battles, okay? I try to fight the good fights. You're not going to make me charge twice as many wild cards for one card on Magic Arena. You're just not going to do it. And I just beat that drum and was trying to be polite and nice about it. Just want to let them know, make sure everybody else knew. We talked about it on the show a couple weeks ago, and by God, they changed it, and it's great, and I appreciate that. I'm going to bring up the gist of the changes right here. The gist of it is that wild cards are going to be redeemed 1 for 1 in Historic, as they should have been from the start. Historic games are going to count towards quests, but no longer towards daily and weekly wins. You can buy Historic packs in any quantity, as you should have been. I didn't really care about that change, but hey, high five. And there's the upcoming change planned to the 15 to 20 new Historic cards available via a paid event, but they haven't said what exactly will change. So whether they're going to actually add cards like Dark Confidant or Wormcoil Engine, whether they're going to add 15 to 20 cards, period, whether they're going to add cards to Historic, period. And for what it's worth, I don't really care. All I really cared about was that if you have a Historic format, don't tax me to play in it. I don't care if you want to make it weird, if you want to make it interesting, different, fun, add this card, add that card, make it Modern 2.0. I don't care. But don't go trying to take stuff like you've already clearly established what the value is. And we got there, and I appreciate everyone's help. Anybody who retweeted, anybody who liked it, or who sent a message to Wizards, this stuff matters, and I only try to use my powers for good, and I really appreciate everyone's help on that. So it really felt like there was a huge community movement. Obviously, it's not just me. I'm not trying to take credit. I'm just saying I was
Norma Ray over here holding up her little sign,
right.
I was part of the plan to fix this crap because this injustice will not stand.
Wow.
I couldn't handle it. And we are in the wrong slide, actually, in Desperate Ravings. That's it. Speaking of Desperate Ravings, I'm going to touch this and move on. Okay, like we did before. We're going to touch and move on. Conley Woods was banned for life. If you want to go Google that and figure that out yourself, it's okay. That's a thing.
Mess. I'm
not talking anything else about it. I'm just letting you guys know. This is a news show. That's the news. There are Brawl decks coming out with the release of Throne of Eldraine. First of all, did you know that?
I did.
Did you know Brawl decks were coming?
I knew about the little arena event, but I didn't know that they were paper.
Yes. Yeah. They are actually going to be completely paper. They are going to be cards new in Standard, and they're also going to be showing up in the collector's packs for Throne of Eldraine, those cards that you can only get in the Brawl decks.
Sure.
But here's the thing. Wizards didn't make very many.
Sure.
And I mean like you know, like Cool Stuff Inc., right? We order a bunch of stuff, we ask for a bunch of stuff, and every once in a while, you'll get allocated, quote unquote. That's the big words, the A word in the industry. Allocated basically means I asked for 100, I got allocated 20. So instead of the 100 you get 20 you get. So imagine we asked for this, and they gave us about that. And you're like, Wizards, I can't even let this thing go on for pre-order because we don't have enough copies to. I mean, we have 7 stores at Cool Stuff. Like, we couldn't even disperse it to them hardly. So, so we got so bad. Like, you know, obviously on the sort of the industry side, I'm hearing about this from distributors, and I'm hearing about it from people that order stuff at Cool Stuff, and you know, I get to hear that industry download, you know, inside baseball stuff. But when it got so bad that Wizards on their Twitter account was like, "Yo, we're printing more, we're sorry," that kind of shows you that they really underestimated how exciting these things were going to be.
Well, this is also particularly because of one card that's in these sets, right? It's the Arcane Signet is such a big deal.
And part of it is the Arcane Signet being a staple for every Commander deck now from the end of time.
Right.
But why would you not prepare for this, though? Like, they boasted about the fact that they were going to give Brawl all of this support. So if you're planning on putting your full support behind something, why would you not prepare for that thing to be successful and then be able to respond to that support? Like, it just feels it feels like inviting a lot of people over to a party and then not making enough food, where it's like, if I'm having a party, you all are getting fed. Like, I'm making sure I got snack trays, I'm making sure I have booze, like, I'm preparing for that. And like, the fact that it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the other thing is that the comment from Pratheus is right. It doesn't matter if Brawl is a successful format. Commander players want these decks because they're going to buy the Commander decks that have new cards to the format. They're still going to buy these Brawl decks that have new cards to the format.
Right.
And, you know, even regardless of a new format existing, they're still going to want these cards for the other formats that they already play.
So, I mean, for example, right now, Commander decks have started to actually slow down. And you can actually buy them if you want them these days versus just like, oh my god, they're up and they're gone immediately. So we're going to get more of those reprinted. But at the same time, you also have to understand and/or respect how Wizards has to try to figure out the scarcity issue. I think in an ideal world, you want to supply about 90% of the demand. The idea that you missed out and you better act really fast next time, that's a mentality they want to encourage and create and, you know, and make sure that you are aware.
It's frustrating. And I think Alexis Jansen even talked about it on Twitter. Former Wizards employee Alexis Jansen even expressed some frustration of like, you know, I just want to give you my money. Like, you know, it's frustrating to have to play this game of the artificial scarcity game.
Right. Now, for what it's worth, am I super happy that if you buy the deck and paper, they don't give it to you on Arena? Not really. The fact that you have to use all of your wild cards on these things, they're not going to be found in any packs on Arena, kind of crappy. But otherwise, it's fine. I enjoyed the Brawl event. I thought that was brilliant. The idea that they were like, surprise, Brawl is on Arena today, and you go play it and all that stuff. But the demand just shot up out of nowhere, and partly because, you know, they showed the large player base on Arena how cool Brawl is and or how cool these cards are. Don't you want to play with them yourself? And then didn't make hardly enough. So I can see it being they weren't confident in Brawl, and as a result, they tried to, you know, they were sort of conservative in their printing, and then things blew up, and here we are. So these are good problems. These are success problems.
Yeah.
And I'll take them. Okay, here. So, the Dragons Endgame. Now, part of this is talking about how they didn't sell it internationally or whatever, but that's not really the story. The story of Dragons Endgame, this being the San Diego Comic-Con release for this year.
Those were the ones with Bolas and the Eternals, right?
Yeah, and super high contrast, like look really sweet.
Yeah.
Well, they were selling them for $100 a pop, and that's great. But here was the key. Here's the thing. When they said go here to buy it, you got into a queue. You got into you're in a waiting room to later send you to buy the thing. Oh my God, we've been waiting for this for how many Mythic editions? How many times? How much hundreds of thousands of dollars did they lose because they had to send, you know, War of the Spark uncut sheets to everybody versus like buy this software and use a queue already. And I used it. It worked perfectly, and I got my Dragons Endgame, and it's awesome. So, high five. Thanks, Wizards, for figuring this one out, and I definitely see them using this for any type of product like this in the future. It's just terrific. So, high five to good software. So, Ruben, you've been around a bit.
Oh, bother.
If I were to say Trey Van Cleve, what would you say pops into your mind?
You're gonna make me do this?
I'm gonna make you do this.
You can't ask me, because if you say Van Cleve to me, I'm gonna think of the guy who runs the dead mines in World of Warcraft.
I was gonna say, oh, you say Van Cleve. I think coin Edwin Van Cleve on turn 2 in Hearthstone.
Okay.
But yeah, Trey Van Cleve. I mean, look, I think of Nosy Goblin. That's the card that you think of when Trey Van Cleve pops up, because he got disqualified from a Grand Prix top 8 because of looking over his shoulder at Zvi Mauschwitz's draft. That is the first person to be disqualified from a Magic the Gathering event based on photographic evidence.
Yeah.
Like, literally, if you Google his name and Zvi, you'll see him holding the pack and looking over like that. You know, the number one thing you're not supposed to be doing when you're drafting at a premier level. Well, came out on the 15th here that Trey Van Cleve was DQ'd for keeping his deck stacked during shuffling at a PTQ in Kentucky, adding to a 16-year resume of cheating. As I understand it, he has been DQ'd multiple times. It wasn't just like the Nosy Goblin and then 16 years later we get this. The
best part about this is he basically blames his son. So there was a Facebook exchange that happened and was shared to Twitter, and it's a very long statement, so I'll try to shorten it. But basically he says, I colluded and paid the penalty, accidentally looked left and paid again. So he's referring to that infamous moment. I am just trying to enjoy Magic with my son. I would never jeopardize that in any way. I had to change my whole sleep schedule around just to make it to the MCQ because of my son's desire to play. I remember that joy and hunger, so I did it. I played the deck I played at the last event with no attention to details. I have jumped through so many hoops to continue to play this game just so I could possibly maybe enjoy this with my kids if they love it too, and they do. So he's really leaning on the kid angle for this one. There's a lot of vague statements of like.
Now, to be fair, that is not a public statement. That was a direct message that was then later shared. But yes,
a lot of tap dancing here of like, sure. I remember, I can't say, I can't promise you. You could have probably made your point in fewer words. And so it's what I call a Lena Dunham apology, where it just goes on and on and on, and the more words you add, it just starts to lose meaning. And
this one felt a lot like the Kevin Spacey apology, where it was like, sure, I did something wrong, but also this is another facet of my life.
And the idea of bringing up your kid, I mean, oh my God, you got DQ'd in an event where you played with your kid? Oh my God, dude, we're at a bad place already. And then the end of it being like, his thousands of Facebook transactions somehow pays for his.
That was the best part. So he ends it. He says this weird thing about, I hope all my thousands and thousands of Facebook deals show my honesty and integrity and care for the community.
Yeah, because he's a
MTG Finance have to do with that, like
right? Because he is quite involved. I think he runs a store or is partnered with a store.
Both
it has nothing to do with this. Yeah,
you can be great at running a store and also be a cheater. They're not mutually exclusive.
Right. The price of tea in China may be whatever it happens to be. You selling a card on Facebook has nothing to do with you cheating event where you're playing with your kid in it, man. What is wrong with these people? Okay, that makes me hurt. And if he has really been
have kids, like you wouldn't do that.
Oh, I mean,
you would only cheat at an event where your kids weren't there, right? That's
the real integrity, y'all. I wouldn't show my kid how that stuff works.
I'd be sure my kids were far away.
It's really possible to play an event without your kids because
it's true.
Anyway.
Wow. We don't have a whole bunch of time, but is there anything else you guys want to cover other than the MCQ from Hell? Because I think that's too entertaining not to.
I mean, we definitely got to do that.
I really want to bring up the format changes for the playoffs because I think that's really interesting, and it does affect me now that I do qualify for the playoffs.
Let's hear about it. Go ahead.
So last weekend, I managed to get a hold of 35 vintage points to be able to play in the playoffs. And so for those who don't know, Magic Online has these format playoffs that happen once a quarter. They have them for Pauper, Modern, Legacy, and Vintage. And the way it works is you acquire 35 format points, and then every quarter you have to consume the points to qualify. But if you keep playing, you have essentially 4 bites at this apple that leads to a format championship. So the top 8 from each of the 4 playoff events gets funneled into the championship, and whoever wins the format championship moves on to the Moxed. And if you do well at the Moxed, you can qualify for the Pro Tour. So you can, in theory, qualify for the Pro Tour by playing your favorite format if you want to. And so there used to be just 4. You played once every quarter. However, the most recent Modern playoff reached its cap. So there were a lot of Modern players that weren't able to participate in this. So the folks at Magic Online decided that they were going to fix this, or they were going to make it up to them by offering an in-between playoff event in October. So there are now 5 chances to qualify for this event, this championship at the end of the year. It's really great if you don't qualify because you get another bite at the apple. But if you're already locked in, you thought you were only having 31 people to compete against, and now you have 35 people to compete against. And also the prize support is not changing. So you are now having to, split up those prizes a little bit more. And so, the people who already qualified were a little bit sore about this. And so this was something that didn't really affect me until I found myself trying to qualify for this thing. And so it's an interesting change, and it's definitely good for the people that were affected, but Wizards tries to make everything equal. And so unfortunately, people from other formats are paying for this too.
Fair enough. To also touch on a thing, which would you rather watch, the MPL or the Grand Prix? I mean,
yeah,
we talked about that a little earlier. That said, there was a MCQ that went pretty poorly. Very, very poorly.
It was like a bomb that kept exploding.
There's a store called Dragon's Lair in Austin, Texas, and apparently it is infamous for having issues. There's an MCQ there with no judge in sight and multiple known cheaters in attendance. Someone asks, should I even play? Due to player outrage, the TO has rounded up a rules advisor, for the event that qualifies.
Deck lists were due 30 minutes before start time.
Which was weird. Okay. So the idea that, things kind of went poorly at the start, and then later, after round 4, because they had less players than they officially announced originally,
dropped off the price support.
First place went from $1,000 to $840. A weird amount, by the way.
It's a weird number, yeah.
And second through 8th lost $50. Now, note, more outrage on top of that outrage, have them restore the prices, as I understand it.
Yikes.
But the fact that you had to get the outrage after no judge and then try to take prizes and then try to put them back.
They must have learned from the Magic Online folks of just if you get them outraged enough, or the Arena folks, sorry.
It is astounding how poorly this event went in many ways, and also is a good example of Wizards has done everything they can. This is the culmination of Wizards getting away from the judge program as humanly fast as possible. They were told this judge program's got to go, so that we have the Judge Academy thing now, and Wizards is like, you ain't got to have a judge for nothing, even if this event probably needs, integrity, because...
Well, I think it's also an example of the fact that not every store is cut out to run these events. I seem to recall, and I'm sure that there were terrible PTQs back in the day during the PTQ days, but, on the one hand, people were talking about how PPTQs were so much more accessible, but at the same time, not everybody's meant to be running them. Not everyone has the space, not everyone has the staffing. And so, unfortunately, I feel like we've seen more of these horror stories of people that, want to be able to give this experience, but you just logistically can't do it, and those are really, really tough conversations to have.
It's true. So going to touch here 2 seconds into some splash damage, because you got to see
I want to talk. Which one are you talking about?
I got to talk about them stonks.
Stonks? All right, I want to do Hall of Fame after you talk about stonks.
It's not going to be long.
Not long.
MTG Stonks, which is...
What is this?
This is
It's ridiculous is what it is.
It's a meme come to life.
Yep.
So if you hit refresh, it's a different card.
It's a different card with a different expert says. MTGSTONKS.com is absolutely hilarious. The president of CSI joked that this is our new, buying program and our new feature. I don't know who set this up, by the way.
I think it happened on Twitter. I think some people from MTG Deals were trying to get a hold of the domain, and then I think Justice Steffen had a hand in it because I think she said DM me or something, and so it really was born on Twitter.
It is absolutely hilarious, and I love how the card names are misspelled at the top with that little thing. It's the Wingstep Heath. I love it. Necropontents. Ancestral Refund. I love it.
Best.
It's fantastic. So check that out. Ruben, tell us about the National Toy Hall of Fame.
So the National Toy Hall of Fame last year, I believe, inducted Dungeons and Dragons into it. Other iconic titles such as Lego, Monopoly, and the Rubik's Cube are in the National Toy Hall of Fame. And between September 11th and today, you can vote for some whichever toys you think meet the criteria of the iconic status, longevity, discovery, and innovation that would get you into the Toy Hall of Fame. And Magic the Gathering is a nominee, but it's up against some very stiff competition, including Care Bears, The Coloring Book, Fisher-Price Corn Popper, Jenga, Masters of the Universe toys, Matchbox Cars, My Little Pony, the Nerf Blaster, Risk, the Smartphone, and Aaron's vote, the Top.
Goodness gracious.
I really only wanted to do that story just so that I could say that stupid joke at the end.
I will never forget. This is the same group that had the listing of Stick.
Yes,
Remember?
Stick, I think, is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my god.
I also think that, well, I mean, obviously things like the yo-yo are in here, but I think Ball is in the Hall of Fame. There are some weird ones.
There's some weird. The Stick just always got me.
Stick is really good.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right. So we have to do some giveaways and some thanks here. Let's go ahead and do the giveaway before we turn the corner to the finisher. I never know which order I should do these in. I don't care. Let's pick a winner. 3, 2, 1. Congratulations to Jebediah252. You have just won a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com.
Oh, thank you so much. If that is who I think it is, he plays vintage.
Oh, well,
Nice.
Terrific. Well,
Yeah.
feel free to check out CoolStuffInc.com's vast array of vintage collectibles.
And I don't
Right.
think I have him blocked. So
And buy 1/1000th of a vintage card.
yes.
Well, you can buy fractions of cards these days.
Right.
Listen, fast bonds.
With your stonks.
Yeah, you can get fast bonds. Get those once upon a times while you can.
There you go.
So congratulations again to Jebediah252. Thank you so much to Cool Stuff for sponsoring this giveaway. We'll get to the thanks here in just a minute, but we got to turn that corner to the finisher. So on Friday, September 13th, a truck bound for the Georgia-based tabletop and video game company Trivium Studios took a turn too sharply, spilling 216,000 gaming dice onto Interstate 75 in Atlanta, in what could be the biggest unintentional dice roll ever. A representative commented, quote, "Though unfortunate it happened, nobody got hurt, and we now own an unofficial world record for the largest dice roll in history. Considering the average roll of 2 6-sided dice is 7, and approximately 216,000 dice were rolled, Trivium estimates the roll totaled 756,000. The truck was undamaged, having made its saving throw. Now, this is big news, or maybe huge or gargantuan news based on how big this creature is, but tell me, the next time gaming spills into mainstream, how would you like to see it happen, Ruben?
Well, every Hollywood blockbuster is based on a comic book. Every popular TV show has vampires and werewolves and sometimes even Stranger Things. There's one frontier left, though, and that is songs. So get ready for the biggest stars in hip-hop, emo, punk, pop, and rock to come together for Music the Gathering.
Ooh, very nice. Aaron?
The world needs more of what the nerd community has to offer. Togetherness, respect, and everything from cute snacks to whole-ass meals on Twitter. But we do need actual snacks and meals, and since Taco Tuesday has become such a big part of my life, I am ready for the combo of delicious foods and nerdy cultures. So coming to a Taco Bell near you, food tokens.
That's right.
Nice.
Former
Wrap
tacos.
it in a tortilla. Just
Wrap it up. Favorite toys, top. Got it. Maxwell Jacob Friedman stirred up some trouble and some potential new wrestling fans when he tweeted out that he does not play Dungeons & Dragons. His all-elite wrestling nemesis these days is Brandon Cutler, who has D20s on his merch and whose finishing move is the TPK, and as luck would have it, the two have a match coming up. Big-name nerds like Joe Manganiello?
Yeah, you did it.
Joe Manganiello, Matthew Mercer, and WWE's Xavier Woods got involved, adding fuel to the fire. So I'm looking forward to the end-all, be-all, nerd versus jock, hero versus heel matchup, and I pray to the gods that the geek shall inherit the earth.
Nice.
Very nice. Even though Manganiello. God.
It's all right. He was in the movie Magic Mike's, which our show is a pun on.
Which I've never seen, surprisingly.
I have a DVD box set for you.
What?
Really?
I bought the Magic Mike's and Magic Mike's 2 XXL on DVD. It's still in my closet. I planned to bring it to Erin and give it to her during one of the set reviews, but I forgot to bring it to Florida last time. I know. There you go.
Wow.
Goodness. All right. Well, Erin, you had a message you wanted to throw out here?
Yeah, I just wanted to say before we go, I've had so many guys come up to me over the last couple events and say to me that, my wife or my girlfriend has absolutely no interest in playing Magic, but she will watch you when I watch Magic Mike's. And so I just want to say to all of the wives, girlfriends, friends with benefits, metamors watching, thank you so much. I see you and I love you.
That's great. All right. So we can go ahead and get through some thanks here, as it were. MTG Young Mage, hey buddy, it's bedtime. Has resubbed for 16 months. 16 months, sweet.
That's more than him.
Thank you so much. MTG Pack Foils hit their year mark for 12 months. Hashtag 3 best hosts seriously.
Nice.
Mr. Lubufu, I see you.
Mr. Subufu.
That's right. Resub for 16 months. Says, woo, $5. Says, Evan forgets about my sub again. Well.
Whoa.
So
$5.
Where is the sun? I'm looking. There's so much shade here. That's the absolute shadiest. All right. Let's see. Chessius resub for 7 months. Thank you so much.
We're rich. We got $5.
Yay. Prathus is sub via Prime. Thank you so much. Travis M79 resub for 2 months. That's a big one. Thanks for coming back. Antho Amic has resub for 5 months in a row. They say yay. Blue Monkey 477 has resubscribed for 4 months. They say hello. How you doing? Frankenstein 3R has subscribed. Welcome to the channel. Tido Monkey has resubbed for 2 months. Again, that's a big one. Thank you so much. They say woot. New Genesis 02 has subscribed via Bezos Bucks. Castrelon 55 has resubbed for 4 months. Says at work, but had to drop in and sub. You are just awesome. And we love you very much. Ruben, you want to talk to us about them bits?
Sure. Since we are in the Broken Pact season, and of course Season 3 is coming up on Monday.
Wow.
I thought Season 3, Episode 3. Let me just drop that little name right there. Other Magic the Gathering news, by the way, happy birthday to Ashlyn Rose, one of the players on my show. And we are in Avernus, and I introduced the character of Mad Maggie last episode, and so I think I'll read the bits in Mad Maggie's voice. So thank you to Amber Anarchy for 69 bits. Very nice. What doth life, you say? Well, 100 bits is what I say about that. Thunder Voice 1, 369 bits. Thank you. Smeal Cows, 500 bits. Very nice. House of Shadow, 515 bits. Excellent. And of course, thank you to our good friend and mine, MTG Pack Foils, 1,500 bits. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
And speaking of that, by the way, in case anybody has more money that they want to throw at me, hashtag Race into Avernus is happening right now. So look at the hashtag Race into Avernus and look up the Broken Pact and 4 other shows on the D&D Twitch channel are racing towards a goal, and the winner of that by October 1st, if whoever raises the most money, gets to be in a D&D product. So, nice. That would be cool if we get to do that.
That'd be pretty cool. That said, that ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you for having me, and it feels great to be back.
It does. Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Oh, my gosh. We're going to move here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Camel and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching or listening, and hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe, do everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at MagicMikes, Twitter at MagicMikesCast, our Magic Mike subreddit, and like the Magic Mikes page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at MagicMikesPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMikesPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody.